Alright, let's get straight to the point. You click on the video because either you were bored or you need help with answering the most important question of every single patch, which is who should you pull for in patch 3.6. And it is a very good question for us every single patch because especially in 3.6 we are having quite a lot of good characters coming back, as well as some new characters as well, which is the reason why I have this video in hope of being able to help you out with all of my Genshin Impact experience throughout the years. Now guys, speaking about pulling for characters, then if you are new to the channel, then be sure to subscribe as I will be holding a giveaway for my subscriber at 35,000 subs. We are at 31k right now, so the goal is not very far away, and we might even make it by the time Nahida's banners drop. So guys, it is a free way to support my channel and also giving you the chance to be able to pull for the character that you want. And so with that out of the way guys, let's just dive into today's video. First off, as usual, I will be going through the most important points of all of the characters that will be appearing, or basically the pros and cons of these characters, so you have an idea of how they perform and what they do best. First off, let's talk about our newest character, Baizhu. There is basically a week away before his official release, and all of the things we're going to be discussing here are basically the information that was provided from him within patch 3.6 livestream. Now from all of the information that we have got, here are basically the upsides of Baizhu that I have seen. Is that Baizhu right now, I would say he does have potential. His main role is going to be kind of like a bit of a shielder, but mostly healer for your team. He is the first 5-star healer of the game. However, we do have a 4-star healer Yao Yao already, so there sometimes can be a little bit of comparison between the two characters. But nonetheless, adding Dendro healer into the game will help you a lot with your team building, as before that we really had tough times in terms of Dendro reaction teams, as we were lacking a lot of Dendro healers. Looking into all of Baizhu's scaling, you're definitely not going to be relying on him to be doing the damage for the team because his scaling is just very low for a 5-star character. Plus his defense is also one of the worst in the game as well, so you're not technically wanting him to be on field either, or tanking hits that would normally kill you within 1 or 2 hits, because even though we're going to be building him pretty much on HP, but with low defense sides, he's still going to be taking out quite fast. Talking about HP building, he does have HP scaling, so that does support him a lot in terms of stacking up HP and helping you out with healing. His E skill basically summons a snake that deals Dendro damage up to 3 times and then heal your nearby characters. The thing is with this snake though is that again it does have pretty low scaling, so not much damage whatsoever. His burst however is where his main potential is unleashed, because what his burst does is that it basically provides you a shield that can heal your active character and also does AoE Dendro damage, because the capability of the shield is that it is able to renew itself whenever it is bricked. So every time it does so, it will activate a healing and doing AoE damage for the team. So basically the mechanic behind how his bursts basically work is that he's going to be providing you a pretty weak shield, because first of all the scaling in terms of his shield is weak. They make it so that it is easy to break in order for him to trigger what the shield does, and also it has short duration of 2.5 seconds every time before it renews, and that's when the shield is going to be triggering its ability as well. So at the very least, Baizhu is capable of healing a lot for your team, maybe over healing most of the time, and his shield does help him a bit with applying AoE Dendro application, but from what we have seen, it does require you to be very close to your enemies, otherwise the Dendro application won't be hitting, and that's something you need to look out for. Baizhu's passive talent is pretty good as well. It does give him a nice boost, especially for the team. His first passive basically gives him that whenever your active character HP is below 50%, then Baizhu gains a 20% healing bonus, but when their HP is above 50%, then Baizhu gains a 25% damage bonus. Now the only thing is that most of the time we're not going to be relying on Baizhu's personal damage, so that 25% Dendro damage boost won't be changing it too much. However, for his second passive, basically the more HP you're able to stack on Baizhu with a cap of at 50,000 HP. For every 1000 max HP counted, the damage of reaction from Burning, Bloom, Hyper Bloom and Bursian will be increased by 2%, and Aggravate and Spread reaction damage is increased by 0.8%. There's something that is provided to the team based on how much HP Baizhu acquires, so that does gives a pretty nice boost for your team. However, from all of these, Baizhu do have quite a lot of downside at this point that we really want to discuss. The biggest out of all right now is going to be his Dendro AoE application, because it is very little at this point. Most of the time you're probably not going to be having Baizhu as an on-field character, so even if he is a catalyst user, we're not going to be able to make use of Dendro application that way. Also, his E skill, even though it goes up to 3 enemies hit, however it goes within a line, so basically it is not AoE either, and the enemies, I would say they have to be quite close to each other, otherwise it will not work. And as for his burst, the only source of AoE that he has will also requires him to stay close to the enemies, otherwise it doesn't apply Dendro either, which causes to be one of the biggest problems that Baizhu have right now. He's basically purely a support character for the team, of healing and a bit of shielding, and with his second passive that does help a bit. However, he's in competition with a lot of other good support healer out there, which tends to put him in a bad situation at this point. Not to mention his very low personal damage, which makes it very hard to justify of putting him into a team, especially when you're building an Abyss team, where speed running and doing a lot of damage is much more important than how long you're able to survive. Also, what he does best at this point is basically providing your team the shield, or what it means that it basically gives him his burst. However, his burst costs a lot of 80 energy with a 20-second cooldown, while the uptime is only 14 seconds. A 6-second cooldown is quite long and requires a lot of your team rotation management. Therefore, even though you want to build HP onto Baizhu so that he can cap out his second passive talent, he will still need his energy recharge build. So you do still have to manage between two of that. Otherwise, if he's lacking in energy, he won't be able to burst every rotation, and that's going to be a big problem because that's his biggest part within his kit. So overall at this point, Baizhu is really good at supporting your team with keeping your team alive and also helping you with a bit of shield. Something I didn't mention earlier is that even though his shield is weak and it can be easily broken, the good thing about any times we have a shield is that it does help you with resistance to interruption, because even though when the shield breaks, it still wouldn't really interrupt you within the combo, helping your team focusing a lot more onto doing attack rather than having to iframe dodge and be on the defensive side. And along with his second passive talent, it does help your team boosting some Dendro reaction damage, and that's going to be good also. However, with the lack of Dendro application, you're probably going to be relying on your other Dendro character on the team to be applying Dendro so that you can make use of Dendro reactions. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to trigger when Baizhu don't have access to a lot of Dendro applications. Next is our lovely Nahida. She finally has a rerun as expected. And so let's remind you again what Nahida is really good at. First of all is that Nahida is able to apply a lot of Dendro. She's certainly the best character when it comes to Dendro application in the game until now. And considering that she's also a catalyst user, that just help her having a lot more access to Dendro elements, especially when you're having her as an on-field driver. Not to mention she has really good personal damage, for she is a sub DPS character, making her very valuable. When it comes to her E skill Tri Karma Purification, it doesn't just have very good AoE coverage because it does cover so many enemies on the field, up to 8 if you are running in a group situation. Building her correctly and you will see very high number dealt by Nahida herself. Her elemental burst cost is very cheap as well for how much it actually does. It only costs you 50 energy, so technically speaking you're going to be having her burst up every rotation. Backing that up for her burst is going to be her passive talent 1, where she gives up to 250 EM elemental mastery for your active character if you max out her EM at 1000 EM. So not only is she able to do very good sub DPS damage for her own, but she is supporting your team to do even higher reaction damage altogether. And since she is best as a sub DPS character, she can basically be in any single team and she will perform well, making her a very flexible character to slot into different team composition. When it comes to Nahida downside, seriously guys, I don't really have anything major to talk about because I myself have been constantly using Nahida and there is absolutely no issue coming from her. As long as you're taking the time to invest into maxing out your Nahida as much as possible, she will do absolutely fantastic for your every single team. Moving on to Nilou, our beautiful dancing queen. Now I don't know about you guys, but Nilou is literally one of my most favorite characters in Genshin Impact because of how unique she is, and she's really cute guys. Like, I enjoy unique character because Nilou is actually a character that is not for most of the player in Genshin Impact, and we're going to be discussing why here now. So on the upside of Nilou, she, as I have said, has a very unique playstyle of playing around with bountiful cores, building her only in Hydro and Dendro reaction teams if you want to pull out basically all of her potentials. If you are able to build Nilou into the right team, her team is definitely one of the strongest in the game right now, as I have already said in my past video, best team comp, because its personal damage can be very high. Not to mention guys, the bountiful cores has insane AoE, and due to its fast reaction popping time, every Dendro cores on the field is going to be popping up like fireworks in the night sky constantly. It's very fun to watch and feels very nice to use Nilou at the same time. Nilou is very easy to build as well guys, because you're basically going to be stacking HP onto her, and she has very good free-to-play sword weapon as well. Mainly if you are a free-to-play player, you're just going to be giving her the sack sword, which I do believe everyone have at least one copy of it, so it's very easy. Not to mention she's very easy to play because most of the time you're just going to be spamming her E skill and then switching her off to other character to be on the driver. But she can also be on field, which is why her attack animation is very nice also. So even though she is limited within her team comp, you can kind of switch up her playstyle here and there. Now her upside also is that even though she is limited within, you know, a Dendro and Hydro teams, that doesn't mean that she can't be on other teams. Because of how her E skill works, that does help you in terms of Hydro application for up to 12 seconds if she is at a C0, so she can still be able to help your team apply Hydro. Therefore, if you want to play in, you know, like a freeze team or a vaporize team, Nilou can still be on that. It's just that she won't be able to trigger her bountiful cores. Now with Nilou's downside, as you have known, she is very limited in terms of her team comp at this point, so there will not be any uniqueness when it comes to building Nilou's team. And so whenever you're stuck with Hydro and Dendro element, then of course your chosen character is also going to be limited. Plus, if you want Nilou to be at her top potential, then you are required to have a lot of team investment for her, requiring some of the best character in the game to be on her team, like Kokomi and Nahida at this point, which are of course all 5-star characters. You know, there's also Baizhu coming along, and I believe that Baizhu can also work really well with Nilou's team. Other than that, she does have her free-to-play team option, like running along with Barbara, Dendro MC, and as well as Yao Yao, which can still be fine, but just a lot less efficient than when you have like Kokomi and Nahida. The team performance is going to be vastly different. So overall with Nilou, it's either going to be her being used in her right specific team, or you just don't use her, which sometimes can be refreshing to players, because you know, whenever you're using Nilou, it means that you're having a complete different playstyle. However, that again, she does require your teammate to be a lot more invested if you want to see really good performance on her side. And then we have our lovely Ganyu. This is already her, I don't remember how many times she already has a rerun. I believe this should be like, you know, her second rerun. And since she has already been out for a couple of times, I do believe that many of us have already gotten Ganyu if you did enjoy her a lot. However, if you're still thinking about getting Ganyu at this point, then here's her really good upside, which is that from all of my experience of using Ganyu, she is still literally one of the best cryo character in the game until now. I don't know anyone is gonna be dethroning, you know, like Ganyu and Ayaka in anytime soon, because these two characters are just the best cryo at this point. They are really good at what they do best, because in terms of Ganyu's side, she doesn't really have her very powerful charge attack, but in terms of long range, she is the best character right now. If you're lazy and don't want to do too much, then you can just have Ganyu being on the field charge shotting everything from afar, making Ganyu gameplay still one of the most unique in the game right now, guys, because she's one of the few characters that you basically utilize her charge attack like 100% of the time. We do have, you know, Tighnari here and there, but Tighnari is more toward like a quick swap style. I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about if you have been playing Tighnari a lot. While on Ganyu's side, she is focused everything on her charge attack as well as her burst, which is very good also. It does have really good AoE and it helps buffing your Ganyu's and cryo team's personal damage a lot together. Not to mention, Ganyu can also be fit in many different team comp at this point. Her melt and freeze team comp has always been one of the best for us to play in, and it's still her most optimal team comp at this point. She can also be in kind of like a fridge team if you guys have been enjoying playing fridge. However, she's not the best candidate when you're using in the fridge team, because there are other good characters to be considered as well. So most of the time we're still going to be using her in a freeze or a melt team comp. At this point in time, she can still basically take on most of the content without having any trouble. The only time she has trouble is going to be up against a cryo shield, and we still don't have too many of that in the game right now, so Ganyu is still very good, taking out some of the most annoying boss that we have seen, like, you know, the Wolf Lord or, you know, the Wee Nut, which if you're not using Ganyu does require you to stay up close to those enemies, which from your experience I believe that is not an easy thing to do. She's also very easy to build because you've already got her very high DPS number unlocks even when you're building her as a free to play, so that's really good. However, Ganyu do have some downside that we want to discuss. The biggest thing that from my experience right now is that she's very easily interrupted. Therefore, whenever you're using Ganyu, you just want to have a shielder on the team. Otherwise, she's definitely going to be having trouble, especially when you're up against very large enemies that attack you during your charge shot. As we've mentioned, her playstyle is mainly going to be charge attack, so she's mostly stuck to one playstyle at this point, and that also gave rise to a lot of players being, you know, bored with her playstyle after a while, because especially if you only have her as your main DPS character on the team, then doing charge attack constantly would definitely make you bored. So that's something you do want to keep in mind. Other than that, at this point, I really don't see any other major downside we have with Ganyu, because she's already a very complete character. At C0, you will be able to pull out a lot of her potential without having to invest too much. So Ganyu is definitely going to be an enjoyable character when you have her on your account. And so guys, those should be the main points of every character. I hope that it have helped you kind of refresh your minds on the reruns character and have a better understanding of our new Baizhu upcoming character. Now is the point we move on to the most important question of the video, which is who is it that's going to be best suitable for you to pull in patch 3.6. Once again guys, as in every single video of mine, I do really once again suggest you to go for the character that you feel you would really enjoy using them for a long time, instead of focusing on the character that, you know, the community say they are strong, or basically focusing on the meta. As Genshin is basically a pretty easy game already. However, I know that many of us out there have a lot of character list lineup that you want to pull, so I will basically giving my own priority list right now. You can kind of follow this or not, it's going to be your choice, but I will do my best to give you something that I would do myself if I were the one to be making the decision of pulling. Number one, as you have guessed, it's definitely gonna be Nahida. If you haven't got Nahida, then definitely try to save up and try to get Nahida, because as you've known, every single Archon character in Genshin Impact is busted. They are really good and will not be replaced until the end of the game. I feel that every Archon is going to be a representation of each of the elements, so they have to be the best at what they do. So in other words, there's no character who's going to be better at Nahida when it comes to Dendro. The only thing I would say Nahida's lacking at this point is that she doesn't have access to healing. Otherwise, she just basically does everything. So if you're feeling that you're lacking in terms of Dendro, Nahida is gonna be your number one choice. After that, it comes to Baizhu. Now, the reason why I give Baizhu a second choice is first of all because he's definitely a new character. I believe that many of us have been waiting for Baizhu for a long time. He's a character that appeared all the way back in the very first patch of the game. So I know that there are a lot of Baizhu fans out there, and finally the wait is over. As we've mentioned, Baizhu has a lot of potential and it works really well in different team comps, especially character like Sino who have a lot of trouble with resistance to interruption. Baizhu is going to be able to help him do that, while also helping Sino with Dendro application. Because Sino is a close combat character, he should be able to make use of that. Not to mention Baizhu's uptime is really long as well, up to a 14-second uptime with his burst, and Sino is a character that love support to give him a long-term buff. Other than that, you know, other teams such as Toma Bersian should be able to make use of these really well. I won't go in depth too much in terms of team building for Baizhu because that's a separate video, but I believe you get the point. Baizhu, even though he doesn't have access to good personal damage, he's still got quite potential when it comes to team building. And then after that, it's gonna be Nilou because this is her first rerun, and even though Nilou is only for limited players at this point, I know that many of us still love her as a character because she has really good unique gameplay animation, not to mention her unique style of gameplay mechanic. So a very fitting character to pull for, especially this kind of like a patch that favors Nilou because it is featuring Nahida and Baizhu who supports Nilou. So maybe, who knows, if you're able to actually pull for two of the characters, you may have some spare slot for Nilou on your team. And then finally, it's going to be Ganyu because she's already on her second rerun, so I believe that many of us have already gotten her. Then this only leaves for those who are wanting Ganyu that have missed her out on her previous release and her rerun. And so guys, I hope that this have been able to help you have a clearer understanding of the characters and help you make the better decision for you. If you do have any question, however, just feel free to leave it down in the comment section, and I or some other amazing Genshin player out there will get to your comments. I hope that the video have been helpful to you guys, and again, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as there will be a giveaway happening very soon, and you can be a part of it as well. Now, if you are wanting to pull for some of these characters yet you're feeling that you're lacking in Primo Gems, then do check out my videos of predicting how many Primo Gems you're able to get in patch 3.6. I believe that should be able to help you in terms of planning your next patch. Again, I really appreciate you guys sticking with me till this part of the video, and with that, I will catch you on my next video, and I wish you a super day.